Aha, I know what this is going to be all about. It's the day we dragged our Rocna.
Can you believe that? We dragged a Rocna. Do you know what's really embarrassing is that a couple of days ago we did a whole episode on choosing the right anchorage. But I guess we have to put this in context. We're at anchor outside Kudat town. It's in a relatively protected bay from the prevailing southwesterlies, but there was a big front coming up and we knew it was going to last 2 or 3 days. Lots of strong winds. The problem with this particular bay is that despite appearances, you can't anchor too close to land because it's so shallow. This left approximately about 1 mile of water. Here's what happened. It is now 10 o'clock at night and we're starting to get the first of the front that's coming up from the southwest. So these are southwesterly winds. And at the moment it's pretty much a constant 20-21 knots. It's not particularly strong, you know, it's a light breeze. That's good sailing weather, but of course when you're at anchor it's a little bit different. You're going to be swinging around a lot more. Where we're anchored we've got good protection from the mountain range or the hills over in the west there, which means that we don't have too much fetch. And the other thing is that there are no fishing boats here. To be honest, if I was a fisherman and I was anchored out here with my crap ground tackle, I wouldn't want to be here because it's really starting to pick up. Constant 20 knots now, and you can hear the wind howling through the rigging. It's now 10 to 6 in the morning, and as you can hear and see, the wind's got a lot stronger, saying 28-29 knots now, and got a little bit of fetch. What's amazing though is that there's still fishing boats coming in, and Liz says she spotted little fishing boats, you know, single fishermen in there, out there just carrying on with business really. We seem to be okay at the moment, but haven't had much sleep last night.
So this has been going on since yesterday and we've got at least another 24 hours, if not longer, forecast. Yeah, so lots of boats out, even in this, and the catamaran over there is pretty stable, keeping an eye on him. Went up and had checked the anchor this morning and the smubber is holding fine, so the anchor chain is nice and loose. But really it's just a case of staying on watch all day while we carry on going about our business. There you go. Boating. Oh, I've been up here for about an hour watching some fishing boats coming in. Some quite raggedy old fishing boats. Seems to be following a pattern. They come in, they go ashore. I haven't seen what happens when they go ashore. And a short while afterwards they then come out. And then they start motoring towards us, which is not very good. So I've been watching, they don't put an anchor down, they motor right up and then they just let themselves drift back towards the wall and they go sideways. They get far enough and then they motor out again and they drift back. So this particular one here has been doing it, it's the 4th time now. We haven't had much rain, but we've got a lot of wind. We've had more wind recently. We were getting a metre high fetch coming through here. It's a little bit anxious, so I've been keeping an eye on the chain. Snubber's holding at the moment, that's all good. And I don't know what the wind's doing because we haven't got the instruments on, but I reckon it's been 30.
Morning all, it's the 3rd day of these strong winds and I think it's time we told you the story of how we dragged our Rocna. Yes, you heard that right, we dragged a Rocna. But let me explain the situation because I don't think many anchors could have coped with this. As you know, we've been contending with winds between 26 to 30 knots. Yesterday was an unusual day in that the swell really picked up and Liz reckoned they were close to 1 metre at one point. It was quite big. Of course the advantages being in this close bay is that as soon as the wind drops the swell drops, but the winds were sustained for a long time. And what happened was the front of the boat got caught, and of course as you know the lighter part of the boat is the front boat. That's the bit that will always get pushed away by the wind, and that's precisely what happened. Esper got caught side on. So as she turned away from the wind and got blown sideways on, the 1 metre swell then kept her there, and the snubber didn't break, nothing on the boat broke, the chain didn't break, the anchor didn't break, but something had to give. And with all those forces, what happened then was I'm guessing the angle pulled the anchor up, and we dragged. And I looked at it, it was about 100 meters. And then at that point, either the anchor reset, but at the same time I was putting the mizzen out, which I should have done earlier. We've done a whole video on how useful the mizzen sail is in these kind of conditions. So we put the mizzen out, and of course this keeps the boat into wind. So at the same time the anchor reset, and we've been sitting pretty in our new spot, 100 meters down the coast. But it just goes to show you that there are certain conditions in which any anchor and any setup are likely to drag. After 15 years of cruising, this was the first time we've dragged anchor, and with a Rocna too.
Yes, it's not really the first time, because you dragged the anchor when we were in when we were in Turkey. When I was back in the UK, you went off on your own and you dragged.
Yes.
You've forgotten that.
That's very true.
But was it the Rocna or was it still CQR?
No, it was the Rocna, but you weren't there. I went off on a solo sail around the Greek islands, and it was the first place I anchored on my own, and it was one of the first times I'd anchored with the Rocna. And unfortunately I anchored in a bay that was full of weed. Went ashore, sat in a taverna eating a lovely moussaka, and watched all these boats come in, try and anchor and leave. So when I got back to the boat, I was only one of 2 boats left at anchor. The other boat happened to be on a mooring. I didn't know this. And at 2 in the morning I woke up, and it turns out that sure enough it had dragged. But I put that down to being on my own. Also,
you need me up the front dropping the anchor and making sure everything's okay.
Yes, well, I should have, as we said, checked the seabed for weed.
Yeah.
Hey ho.
What lessons do you think we can learn from what happened in Kudat then?
I think we did, on the whole, we did the right thing. We stayed on watch. We were aware of what the anchor was doing, what the winds were doing. We just didn't count on 3 days of sustained 26 to 30 knots. And having a mizzen, of course, helped.
Yeah, should have put that up earlier.
Should have put it out the first day, not the second day.
We knew that really, just didn't do it.
Yeah, and the other reason as well is just don't anchor in Asia, because as you're about to find out, we found out why the anchor dragged.
But before that, here's an annoying advert.
Well, I just spent 20 minutes trying to get the anchor up and had real problems. It's up, but have a look at this. Now you can see it's got loads and loads of clay. It's got a couple of plastic bags wrapped around it. In fact, at least 3 bags. Plastic bag, plastic bag, plastic bag, and there was another plastic, there's a black plastic bag there. Basically this anchor had no chance once it picked up those plastic bags. Seems like a collection of them. One's already fallen back in the water, I couldn't save that, but I'm going to try and now get the bags off so that we don't put them back in the sea. That is 5 or 6 plastic bags. Oh, sorry, no, that's not a plastic bag. That's underwear or a t-shirt or something. 5 plastic bags here. I dropped another 3 in the water, not on purpose, but anyway. Had no chance, did it? Possibly explains why we dragged that other night.